Hey, you know how sometimes we talk about those games like Fortnite, Destiny 2, Call of Duty, Battlefield that don't work on Linux? Well, technically they can, in a way. I'm Oscar, the SuperUser, and today I like to talk about the recently released Nvidia GeForce Now application for Linux. Yes, you heard that right. Nvidia has just released its famous GeForce Now service in the form of a native Linux package. Up to this point, you could only access this service via your web browser or unofficial apps. This native application has the advantage of using more of your computer resources and offering higher resolution streaming than the browser versions. For those of you who don't know what GeForce Now is, it's basically a cloud gaming service provided by Nvidia where you connect to one of their computers and you can play your games through video streaming. The cool thing is that the games are actually the ones in your library. You connect to your Steam, your Battle.net, Epic Games, or Ubisoft accounts, and you can play the games you own. It's a fantastic option for those with underpowered computers, or if you want to play, Cyberpunk 2077 away from home on your grandma's laptop with ultra quality settings and path tracing enabled. As long as you can provide a fast and stable internet connection, you can run anything. And that also means games that don't work natively on Linux. I have used GeForce Now in the past for certain occasions, mainly to play Elite Dangerous at my mum's house so I could keep on top of my intergalactic trade missions, and I have always been pleasantly surprised at how smooth it works. Testing other similar services lately, like Amazon Luna on my smart TV, I can see how far video game streaming over the internet has gotten. Now, it's a paid service, and you have some monthly tiers depending on how much you want to play. But they also provide free accounts that let you play up to 1 hour at a time, which is nice. I've always used the free tier, to be honest. So I've been fortunate enough to get early access to this new native client 1 week prior to launch, and I made it my goal to play an old friend of mine, Destiny 2. I was quite hooked on it for sure, and it really hurt to leave it behind. Although judging by their recent poor decisions, and I mean Bungie's recent poor decisions, it seems I jumped the boat just in time. Anyway, I wanted to reminisce and play some good old Destiny 2 after 4 years of not logging in. If you don't know about the game, it is a fast-paced first-person shooter mixed with Diablo-esque loot mechanics and toots itself as an MMO. The action can get quite frantic, and you have to be quite precise with your mouse movements to get those perfect headshots. So I was used to using GeForce Now for the slow and methodical Elite Dangerous, which made sense for a streaming setup, so I was not expecting a great experience on Destiny 2. Well, I was wrong because the game runs silky smooth and is extremely responsive. Like, really, the first mission that I booted up, I was kind of expecting seeing visual artifacts and experiencing some input lag, but it ran as if it was running on my own bare metal. That blew my mind. I was sniping alien scum in a matter of minutes, and it seemed so real. Now, to be honest, if you look closely, you can see some video artifacts. It's hard to explain without actually seeing for yourself, but you can kind of tell it's essentially a streamed video feed if you know what to look for. But I'm pretty sure nobody will know or notice if you don't tell them it is streamed. So that got me thinking, what is there to stop me from playing other blocked titles on Linux? So I promptly booted up Fortnite, which I'd say is the quintessential game which is not on Linux. And just like before, it ran like a dream. Keep in mind that my internet connection is a decent one. It's neither top tier nor bottom of the barrel, being a 300 megabits per second broadband fiber optics connection. And also the router being wired to the computer. Right, so it works nicely on my Ultra desktop, which is wired to the internet. But what about a subpar laptop via Wi-Fi? You probably recognize this laptop as my son's, which he uses to play educational math games in some Deep Rock Galactic in his free time. And in response to some comments that I had in the Linux Mint video, just because it has a Doom Eternal sticker on it doesn't mean that my 8-year-old son plays Doom Eternal, right? It's just a sticker. It's there. It's just a sticker's decoration, all right? So yeah, it can run some games, but it really can't run super advanced games like Cyberpunk 2077. So let's see if we can play that game on this max graphics and with path tracing, just using wireless connection. And at the same time, I'll show you how to install the native Linux application for GeForce Now. To install the application, you'll have to go over to Nvidia GeForce Now website, where you'll see the Linux version. It is still a beta, as it says right there, and that means it is not the final version, and that there could be some bugs. This laptop is running Linux Mint, based on Ubuntu, so the app should work. In fact, it should work on most distributions. Nvidia does say that Ubuntu 24.04 and higher is the only officially supported distribution for the application, so if you run into trouble and contact customer support, they'll probably only help you if you're on Ubuntu. But essentially, it is a flat pack that you download from the GeForce Now website. You right-click it, you access properties, and make sure it is set to run as an executable. Then you double-click to let it install and let it work its wonders. Once finished, it will open the application window where you can sign in with your Nvidia account and access your games. This time, I'm also going to connect an Xbox controller using Bluetooth and see how it picks up in the application. The first warning the application gives me is about using a wireless connection and that I should wire up or move closer to the router. Now, the laptop already operates right next to the router, so I can't get closer than this. We disregard the warning and go ahead. Now, unfortunately, initial tests reveal that this native application really doesn't like wireless Xbox gamepads, since it seems that the buttons are not properly mapped, and you get these wonky situations where the camera goes crazy and each button does something very different. And yes, this happens on both Mint on this laptop and Ubuntu back on my desktop, so it seems to be a consistent bug. This gets fixed by plugging the controller in with a USB cable, and now it works as expected. As you can see by the footage, the resolution is quite low because this laptop really can't handle anything higher, but we are playing Cyberpunk. Now, since we're using Wi-Fi, there is a very noticeable input lag. To be expected, really. I'd be happy to play single-player games with this tiny lag though. It's decent. Not the best, but decent enough. I can shoot down these goons fairly easily, but I do lose some precision. So yeah, if you can wire up, do so. But if you're in a situation where you must use Wi-Fi, it isn't too bad. Back to my main desktop, I wanted to see if I can use my gamepad wirelessly in some way, and I decided to try a community application called GeForce Infinity. It's developed by Astral Vixen, and this application is a web wrapper of the browser version of GeForce Now. The downsides are that we are limited by browser constraints, which is basically 1440p resolutions at 120 FPS. But lo and behold, the wireless Xbox gamepad worked perfectly. The image, however, was much blurrier with a lower resolution, and you could see a lot of video artifacts. So overall, the native Linux package is great for the best visuals and features, while web versions and community packages are great if you want the wireless gamepad support. I'm pretty sure Nvidia will fix this though. They already specified that the application should natively support the Xbox gamepad, so I do find it strange that it's not working as intended right now, but it is a beta after all. In the end, streaming services are not something that I personally will be using a lot, since I already have a beefy desktop computer, and I also don't really care about playing Fortnite, Destiny, and Call of Duty or Battlefield on Linux. But if you need to play these games sometime without booting up Windows, this is a decent option, really. So what do you guys think about game streaming? I certainly think it can be an interesting option depending on the circumstances. And that's it for today. You can share your experiences with me in the comments if you want, and remember that with great power comes great responsibility.